How's it going, everybody? Nathaniel from RCInsight here, and it is finally happening. I am going to be ranking every single Perplexus, all 25 of them, from the worst to the best. This video has been long overdue. I've been saying it's coming for forever. It's finally here, so buckle up and let's jump straight into this. So I'm going to leave timestamps in the description down below so that you can go through each of the rankings a little bit quicker, starting at number 25 all the way to number 1. And that way, if you want to skip over this little first part, you can do that as well. But quickly, I'm just going to explain how I kind of ranked these and what Perplexuses I'm actually ranking. Obviously, this is not all of the Perplexuses in front of me. I just got a few out to show an assortment of them. But I have 25 here, and so what's not included is the Perplexus A Mini, the Perplexus, the giant Perplexus, and the original Superplexus that was on a timer. Now, the A Mini I would love to have in my collection. I just simply can't get my hands on it. The giant Perplexus is really no different than the Perplexus original, and I already have the world's smallest Perplexus original in here, so I just thought it would be really quite redundant to include that. And similarly, the original Superplexus with the timer, it's the exact same thing as the Perplexus original. It just has a timer on it. I'm also not including reskins like the Harry Potter Prophecy, which is just a reskin of the Perplexus Rebel/Rookie. So that's how I am ranking it. I had some questions when I did my complete Perplexus collection video about some of those, but that is what I'm not including. Everything else, including the Sidewinder and the Twisted, are going to be in this video. That's how I'm getting to 25 Perplexus, just so you guys know. In terms of how I'm actually ranking these, there's not really much of a criteria that I had. I'm going to be doing a easiest to hardest video later, where I'm going to try and be a little bit more objective in terms of criteria for how I do that. For this one, it's really just how much fun did I have playing these? How much do I enjoy them? Are they fun? Are they easy? Are they challenging? Is it a Perplexus I'm going to come back to? That was just kind of how I did this ranking video. So this is purely my opinion, what Perplexuses I enjoy the least and what Perplexuses I enjoy the most. So without further ado, let's start off with number 25. All right, so coming in at number 25 is the Perplexus Sidewinder. Now, this is hardly even a Perplexus in my books. It is completely unlike any of the other Perplexuses there are. It's not really a 3D marble maze at all. It's just kind of this weird two-layered labyrinth with marbles on both sides. It's effectively a cheap knockoff of other existing puzzles. And on top of that, as far as I can tell, there's not an actual solution, quote unquote, for this one. Like, you can get both of the marbles to the middle, which is what you're supposed to do, but they don't even get to the stars where they're supposed to finish. So yeah, I don't want to waste too much time with this one. Just all around, it's a very poor product. It's not really Perplexus, and it's just a worse version of already existing puzzles. At number 24, then, it should come as no surprise that it is the Perplexus Twisted, not to be confused with the Perplexus Twist. Much like the Perplexus Sidewinder, this doesn't really offer anything Perplexus to it. It's slightly more unique and interesting than the Sidewinder, this one being a double-layered maze. You have a maze on both sides that rotate and a solid maze in the middle, so it's a little more interesting, a little more unique than the Sidewinder, but still nothing that is particularly Perplexus. It's not all that fun, and it's incredibly easy to finish, so yeah, just not really that great. So now, with the two truly fake Perplexuses out of the way, at number 23 we have the Perplexus Draco. This was made at a point when Perplexus was kind of in limbo. They hadn't been bought by Spin Master yet, and I think multiple different brands got the rights to the name. And this came out around that period of time, and I will admit, as far as it actually looks visually, this is a super cool looking Perplexus. I really like the way it looks, actually, and that kind of bumps it up just a little bit over those last two, because the shaping, the color here, and the dragon design, it's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for the course, which is really just one long tube maze that is kind of difficult at a few points, but like once you get the hang of it, you get the hang of it, and you've solved it just like that. You're done. So yeah, it's a Perplexus, but it really all it has going for it is its looks, not how it actually plays. Then at number 22, we have the world's coolest Perplexus Teeter. This is one of 3 keychain Perplexuses, and it is the only original keychain Perplexus design. And I'm already not a super big fan of these world's smallest Perplexus designs, just because the marble's actually really hard to navigate being so small with the static and stuff. So already it's a little bit of a challenge to play. Then when you throw on top of that this is basically completely straightforward with the exception of the teeter function in the middle, which is both frustratingly difficult and not particularly easy to navigate, and then it offers nothing else. So when the main feature or focus of your Perplexus game design sucks, well, then it's gonna be pretty low down on my list. At number 21, we have the world's smallest Perplexus Twist. Now, I actually had this up a little bit higher on my list until I recorded my walkthrough for it the other week, and oh my gosh, was that horrible. What a horrible experience, and it made me realize that this Perplexus sucks. Not only does it make significant changes from the way the original Twist was just in order to make it work in such a small scale. As I talk about more in depth in my review, so much of this Perplexus feels like it comes down to luck rather than skill. And so that's just never the way you want a puzzle like this to be, when you're just hoping that the marble goes where you want it to, and there's just no way to predictably do it. That's not a fun experience. And the only reason it's really this high is because the original Twist design elevates this one still. It keeps it up a little bit higher because it's a great original design for the Perplexus with a really fun gimmick involved. But the fact that solving this is based so much on luck just makes for not an enjoyable experience. Coming in at number 20, we have the Perplexus Lightspeed. Now, this one gets some points for being an interesting idea. It's kind of a bit of a take on that original Superplexus with the timed race feature, and it also has an interesting shape. Unfortunately, the course here is really uninteresting. It doesn't really give much in the way of obstacles or fun play experience at all. And if you don't want to engage in that race function, then there's really nothing here. Like, it can't stand alone without that timed gimmick, which the original Superplexus could. So yeah, it gets some points for a unique idea or an updated version of a very old idea, if you will. But the execution just isn't quite there. And if you want to play it outside of that one intended purpose, there's not really much to do. At number 19, we have the Perplexus Keychain Cascading Cups. This is another one of the keychain versions. It is a small version of the mini cascading cups, and it's quite a faithful recreation. The only change here is that it has an actual start and end point, which I like. Again, it just suffers from the same issues these other microscale Perplexuses do. And because the original cascading cups is not amazing either, this one stays pretty low down on the list for me. Trying to do the actual cascading cups in this miniature form is rather challenging, and it's not all that rewarding given just how short and simple it is. I just play the bigger version any day. But speaking of that bigger version, it's the one that comes in at number 18, just above it. Now, I used to have this one a lot higher, but at some point I realized it's just not particularly fun. It's a decent obstacle course with a few good obstacles, but the cascading cups themselves, it's just like a take on the Perplexus Warp, which is way better, way more fun. I don't really love the infinite loop style Perplexus, and outside of the cascading cups, there's really nothing here at all. And so you get it done in 5 minutes, and then there's really no reason to come back to it. So it's not that it's bad, and it actually displays quite nice. I have it up on display because I really like how this one looks. But in terms of the actual playing experience, there's just a lot of Perplexus that are better than it. At number 17, I have the Perplexus Rubik's 3x3 Fusion. And we're starting to get into Perplexuses here that I think are okay. I don't mind them. That includes the Cascading Cups. And I don't mind the 3x3 Fusion either. On paper, it's the longest Perplexus at 225 obstacles. In actuality, it's not. But that length does give this something unique and something interesting. Also, it spins really nicely, so for a Rubik's gimmick, that's another really big positive here. Unfortunately, the maze itself is just an absolute mess. It's really difficult to see where you're going. It's super long with very little variation in obstacles, nothing particularly challenging. The hardest part of this is actually figuring out where the heck you're going in this ugly mess. It's also got that smaller ball size, which I don't love. It's not like the micro scale balls, but it's smaller than the classic Perplexuses, and it's a scale that they tried on a few of them. The other Rubik's Perplexus also is at this scale, and I just don't love the way it feels overall. So yeah, there's some stuff that this guy has going for him, but overall, I find that the 3x3 Rubik's Fusion ultimately just misses the mark. At number 16, I have the Perplexus Keychain Spiral. Now, I really like the Perplexus Mini Spiral, and though this does take away some of those elements and simplify it a little bit, we still get the spiral section, which I love, as well as the swinging cup, which is another obstacle that I really love. This is also one of the ones that is much easier to play in the micro scale. It doesn't feel like the micro scale hinders it so much. So when you couple that, it's decent in the micro scale and has some obstacles that I find just really fun across the board for all Perplexuses, that gets it up a little bit higher. This is as high as any of the keychains will get, but I think 16 is pretty fair for this because it's rather enjoyable. It's not an infinite loop. You'll get a little bit of fun out of it. Not something you're going to come back to a lot, but still the overall execution for what it is pretty good. At number 15, we have the Perplexus Go Stairs, and I will admit, I really like these Perplexus Go mazes. They feel like classic Perplexuses. They're kind of small pocket size, offer a good challenge. They look really nice, have a good assortment of obstacles. There's a lot going for them. Unfortunately, I hate stairs, and so having an entire Perplexus oriented just around the stair obstacle is going to drag it down just a little bit for me. So overall, the design here I really like. It's fun to play. I do enjoy this Perplexus. Just pick something other than stairs, please. That's why it keeps it down at 15. Coming in at number 14 is the world's smallest Perplexus original, and now we're getting into Perplexuses that I really like. I don't think the world's smallest Perplexus original tops the original itself, just because, again, that small scale, there's something about it that just isn't quite right. However, this is a very faithful recreation. I really enjoy playing through it, and it has basically all the same fun and charm that the original itself does. So yeah, there's a lot to like with this one. Like I said, the smaller scale still isn't perfect, but for what it is, it's about as good as it can be. And because the design of the original Perplexus is so good, this one being a faithful recreation is obviously quite good as well. Coming in at number 13, I have the Perplexus Cubot, and this one gets a lot of style points. It looks awesome. It's a lot of fun in terms of the design. I like the cube shape, and it's actually a decently long Perplexus for its size. I mean, if you compare it to something like the Draco, which is actually really, really short, this one's got quite a lot packed into a relatively small maze. And so there's a lot of things that I like here. The obstacles aren't the best. The course layout and design isn't the best, but it looks good and it packs a decent little punch there. So I think that is definitely worth something. Overall, it is a fun Perplexus worth playing, and it still feels like a worthy entrance to the Perplexus series, despite being another one of these Perplexuses that was made while the line was kind of in limbo. I think it holds up pretty well. Then at number 12, I have the Rubik's Perplexus 2x2 Hybrid. And this one has a little bit of an asterisk next to it because I've still yet to finish this. I'm sorry, guys. I know a review and walkthrough will come one day. I'm going to try and get a review done before Christmas, but I just don't like doing reviews before I've at least played through all the obstacles. So yeah, there's a little bit of a caveat here just because I haven't played through it all, so it's not a fully informed opinion, but there's a lot that I like about this Perplexus. It's got a very cool concept. It's an actual Rubik's Cube in that it rotates multiple directions, unlike the 3x3, which just rotates the one direction. The obstacles here are more diverse and unique, unlike the 3x3. I think it really excels in that department of things. But unfortunately, the rotating can get quite sticky and clunky, which is not ideal when you're trying to solve this thing and your marble's like dangling there and you're trying to force it to turn. That's definitely not the best, and there's just so many rotations required. I finally mapped out the entire course. You have to rotate the quadrants 33 different times. You can't memorize that order. You gotta basically write it down. There's just a lot to it, and so unfortunately that takes away from this a little bit for me. Like I said, my opinion is subject to change on this one when I fully finish it, but it's got some stuff that's really going for it, and then it's just got some huge drawbacks, and so I thought putting it around 12 was pretty fair, given that it has a nice assortment of obstacles. It is fairly unique, but it just kind of misses the mark on the execution a little bit. Then at number 11, we have the Perplexus Mini Spiral. And now we're getting into all of the Perplexus that I really have fun with. I come back to these all the time. And I think the Perplexus Mini Spiral is just a lot of fun. It's got a really great assortment of obstacles. I love the spirals, love the swinging cup. And on top of that, there's some other cool little sections here, like this drop section, or there's this swing across the back here. I don't know. It's just fun, and it's a little bit different. There's just enough here to keep it fun and interesting. It is that infinite loop, but I don't feel it detracts from this one quite as much, just because the overall style and obstacles here are really, really good. Now, getting into my top 10, I have the Perplexus Original, aka the Perplexus Beast. Now, this is over a decade old at this point, and it shows. Even the plastic looks ugly at this point in time. But what a nostalgia rush. What a classic. This is the one that got it all started, and so it had to be in the top 10. There's no way I could put it outside of that. I really like this original course, and I think it, gets a lot of points because it did start this whole thing off. There's some really fun obstacles. There's some really great ideas. At the end of the day, I just think a lot of the newer Perplexuses do it better. And so as much as I love this one, as much as this kicked it all off, I think the formula's just become improved and more refined over time. Even later versions of the Perplexus Original, including the updated version, which is the Beast, I think have just improved on small little aspects of this maze. And that makes it just a little bit better. And so what I have here is a really fun experience, but it's one that I don't find all that challenging. And I just don't find myself coming back to too much anymore because I think the other ones do it better. But I got so much enjoyment and so much fun out of this when I first got it that it absolutely deserves to be in the top 10. At number 9, I've got the Perplexus Go Spiral. And much like the Perplexus Mini Spiral, I just love these spiral mazes. It very much feels like an homage to the Mini Spiral, and I love the spiral obstacles. I like even more that it's in this mini sphere shape and scale rather than the weird tubes that the Perplexus Minis are in. So yeah, I really like the style of these Perplexus Go puzzles, and this one has just a fantastic assortment of obstacles too. It honestly has some of the best obstacles, I think, across some of the Perplexuses. It really is the perfect compact Perplexus in my eyes, and if this was extrapolated to be a larger maze at a bigger scale, I'd probably have it even higher on the list. It's just so short and quick that that keeps it down a little, but I love coming back to this. It's a lot of fun. There's some really great obstacles. It offers a decent level of challenge, and yeah, all in all, there's a lot to like with this one. At number 8, I have the Perplexus Revolution Runner, and I figured this one might be a little controversial. Now, it almost isn't a Perplexus in a way. It does have some of that 3D nature to it, but it's like a 2D flat puzzle almost. And so in some ways, it takes away a core part of Perplexus. But it has just enough of that layering to make it interesting and unique still. And the spinning gimmick here, I just love. And frankly, I just love how this feels when you play it. I love how it feels when you hold it. I love how the marble going across the track feels. And so, it's not super long. It's a reasonable challenge. And there's multiple challenge levels depending on how you want to do it, whether you want to have it on, stop mode where you spin it to make it work, or whether you have it on, the automatic spin mode. There's lots of options here that make this really, really interesting and give it some much needed diversity. And so, I couldn't put it any higher just because in some ways it's not very Perplexus-y. It's not super long, but there's something about it that I just keep coming back to. I love how it feels to play, and it's so much fun. I think 8's a pretty fair spot. At number 7, I have the Perplexus Twist. This falls into the category of one of those original Perplexuses, one of the original 4, and the first with a real gimmick. And the gimmick here is really awesome. This is only listed as 1 through 30, but really it's about a similar length to the Perplexus original, probably like a 70 or 80 obstacle puzzle, I would say, in relation to the Perplexus original being 100. The numbers are just more sparse here, so don't be deceived by it being a 1 through 30 level maze. There's a lot going on here. It's a reasonably big maze with a lot of different obstacles. That twisting feature makes for some really unique gameplay and some interesting challenges along the way. So yeah, there's a lot that I really like about this. The maze itself is fun. It's a good challenge. Some obstacles are a little bit frustrating, and some of it just feels a little bit weird, I think, because of the way it twists and turns. There's some empty space. There's some stuff that just feels a little bit off at times. But overall, it was the first gimmick Perplexus. It's a full-size Perplexus. It's got some great obstacles, and it's still a Perplexus I find myself coming back to every once in a while to provide a good experience and a good, solid challenge. At number 6, I have the Perplexus Warp. This is another one of the earlier Perplexuses, and it's the first to experiment with a different shape for the maze ball, being kind of more like a football shape almost, I would say, than a true sphere. It has a gimmick that doesn't really come into play too much, and it's got that cascading cups feature, which has later been replicated several times. And even though it is a little bit on the shorter side, there's some really interesting obstacles here, and it's a lot of fun to play through even though it's a little shorter. Doesn't quite have the same feel as the originals, but I think it makes up for that with some really fun and funky design features. It looks great as a display piece, and it'll keep you entertained for a short while you play through it. On top of that, it's very forgiving, like the Twist, with checkpoints, and so yeah, I think it's overall just a really fun play experience, and that's why I have it at number 6. So, getting into my top 5 here, the best of the best Perplexus. At number 5, we have the Perplexus Harry Potter Golden Snitch. Now, this is also one of those little Perplexus Go's, but it packs way more into it. It's got some great references to Harry Potter in general. It's got the transforming staircase here that swings around like 8 different times to interact with the course, which is just fantastic. A really nice assortment of new and classic obstacles used in a great way. This feels way more sophisticated and much larger than the other Perplexus Go puzzles. And really the only drawback here to me is that it's all gold. And I know why it's all gold. I just don't love that look. I really like when the Perplexus brings in multiple colors to its color scheme. But that's a small complaint and really an unfounded one given this is the Golden Snitch. So yeah, I mean, maybe there's some recency bias involved that such a small Perplexus could make it into my top 5, but it's just got so much going for it. It's much more challenging than it initially looks. It'll give you a good challenge. It's a lot of fun. And it's got some great obstacles that come into play numerous times. And so I really think it deserves this 5th spot. I really like this Perplexus. At number 4, I have the Perplexus Rookie / Rebel / Harry Potter Prophecy, if you will. This has had a whole bunch of different iterations, but it's the same fantastic course. It was one of the early Perplexuses, the first to give us a tube section, which is a lot of fun. I love it, and I love how tube sections have come into play in later Perplexuses. It's a shorter course, and even though I can beat it every time first try these days, it's just so much fun. In terms of replayability, for me, this one has the most. I just always find myself coming back to it. I like to try and get through it as fast as I can. It's one of the only Perplexuses that I speedrun. The overall flow and feel of this track, I think, is unrivaled among any of the other Perplexuses. The way the whole course just weaves together is immaculate. So I love the feel and the momentum that you have when you're playing through this. Being a little smaller and simpler, I had to keep it down at 4. But in terms of just how this plays when you're going through it, I really do think it's unmatched. I absolutely love this Perplexus. It's a trip of nostalgia every time I play it, and I will always come back to it. It is just so much fun. Rounding out the top 3 is the Perplexus Death Star, and I really had a hard time with these top 3. I think they're almost interchangeable. I could really move them around. Maybe in future rankings it might change, but at some point I decided I needed to stick with my guns, and I'm going with this ranking for 3, 2, and 1. And so at number 3, I have the Death Star. Now, I really, really like the Death Star. It's massive. It's got tons of unique and challenging obstacles. So much fun, so much variety. The way the course plays through is great. The way it makes use of a whole bunch of Star Wars references is awesome. I love the design right down to the main dish on the Death Star. You know, you can see the outline of the Death Star etched into the plastic sphere. Yeah, this is just really great design from start to finish, and it's so much fun to play through. That gray color scheme, again, similar to the Golden Snitch, it does wear on me just a little bit. I know why it's the way it is, but you know, I think a little more color would make this more visually appealing and a little easier to play through, because sometimes you can just get lost in the sea of gray here with the scale of this. There's also a couple insanely frustrating obstacles that do feel like they're more luck than skill based. And if anything, I actually think that's what really holds this one back, is that there are a couple of those obstacles that are just feel like complete luck. And there's some places where it does feel like this gets a little stale or lacks some variety as well. But all in all, I think this makes great use of so many things. Lots of drop sections. So if you like drop sections, this is great. If you hate them, it might be a little lower down on the list. For me, I think it fits perfectly at number 3. At number 2, I have the Perplexus Epic. This is a classic. It's, again, one of those original 3, and it still holds up today. There is so much packed into this, so many fun and challenging obstacles. This really is a great challenge. It's got 3 checkpoints, which makes it somewhat forgiving. It's got a great color scheme. I love this original color scheme of the white and blue much more than I do the updated color scheme it has today. I don't know, this is just like the perfect mix of classic obstacles and challenging courses. It's got a fantastic tunnel section. This is really, to me, the epitome of Perplexus. It takes the original and basically improves upon it in every single aspect. And it's just a mammoth challenge that will keep you coming back to it. I still have not gone straight from start to end on this one. That's something that I still have to do. So there's still more for me to come back and get out of this as well. Really, really fun experience as a whole. I debated putting it at number 1, but as you guys already know now, my number 1 is the Perplexus Portal. Now, this might be some recency bias, but I actually really loved the way this gimmick turned out here. This course is dense. It's more densely packed than the Epic, but it is basically the exact same size or scale. The color scheme here is even better than the Epic with the white and red. I love it. Fantastic tunnel section, just a great variety of obstacles. I think it's a little easier than the Epic, but I actually like that. I think the Epic is a little hard in sections, and that pushed it down a little bit. This one is just a touch easier. I really had so much fun playing through it. I'm going to play through it again and again. I think the way this plays is so much fun. The course layout is great. The gimmicks integrated in a way I was skeptical at first, but it's integrated in a way that really, really does add something to this. It makes it great to play through. It just creates a few new unique challenges. This pulls out a ton of classic obstacles, but it also brings in a bunch of new ones as well. Some that have been introduced over the course of these smaller Perplexuses that have come out, and some that pay homage to those original bigger Perplexus mazes. And being a newer Perplexus in that classic style made me so happy. I think they knocked it out of the park, and for me, at this point in time, it is undoubtedly my number one. This is the pinnacle of Perplexus. It's as good as it gets. It's like there's been 10 years to perfect the formula, and then the Portal came out, which is amazing. So that is it. That is the ranking video. Long promised. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you have stuck around to the end, or at least skimmed across all 25 of my rankings, even if you didn't listen to all of my reasonings. I tried to not do like mini reviews for all of them. I tried to keep it pretty concise while still highlighting what I like about these. So many great Perplexuses in the collection. Anything in the top 10, I would highly recommend as virtually a must buy. I think they're fantastic. They're such great puzzles to get into. Once you start, you won't regret it. Great challenge, keeps you busy. You come back to the best ones, and that's just what's so fun about them. I am going to be doing another ranking video where I rank them from the easiest to the hardest. That'll come at some point, probably in the new year. There's no way I'm going to get it out before Christmas, but that's just so that you guys can get a sense of the scale of difficulty for these, which this video didn't touch on all that much, though it did a little bit. I figured that would be another fun one to do, and sometime in the future when there's more Perplexuses out, I'll probably return to this idea. Maybe when there's 30, I'll do another ranking, break it up into 2 parts. Who knows? But I'm going to leave this video here. If you liked it, please click the like button down below. It is a great way for you to show your support. Subscribe for more content like this. I am the place to be on YouTube for anything Perplexus related. So if Perplexus interests you, check it out and subscribe so you can see my Perplexus videos as soon as they come out. With all that said, thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I will see you all in the next one.